you're not sharing the information with me about this group, so why should I share my information with you, right? Look in the mirror, and if you're asking people to self-identify and you're only looking to perform better and you're not doing the work of making them feel welcome, making them feel good, then that's where you want to start. This is 5 biggest mistakes that are causing people to not self-identify in diversity and inclusion. So this applies to schools, companies, clubs, or any organization or group that wants to capture the identity of people by asking them to self-identify as something. In this case, the theme is always related back to Indigenous because that's what I am, but this is the same and highly relevant for all backgrounds, beliefs, gender, and any measure of diversity and inclusion. Before this episode starts, I have a small favor to ask from you. 89% of people who watch this channel don't subscribe. So if you've ever liked any of the videos we've posted, if you like this channel, can you please do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button? It helps the channel more than you know, and the bigger the channel gets, the better we can together make an impact towards Indigenous truth and reconciliation. Thank you and enjoy this episode. The first mistake causing people to not self-identify is that there's so much meaning attached to it. What meaning are you attaching to identity? When you're asking people to self-identify and it's a really heavily weighted answer, this is going to discourage people from responding at all because it's too stressful for them. This is a mistake to attach too much meaning because it will discourage people from feeling confident and feeling comfortable and feel like it's a big life decision in order to answer one way or another. Now, what does attaching too much identity to self-identification questions mean for you? If you're someone who is of Indigenous background and you are answering questions about self-identification, ask yourself personally what meaning you are attaching to self-identification, if there are risks of tokenism or discrimination or anything like that that you are attaching to that self-identity. If you're someone who is an ally and you're wanting to craft questions that are fully inclusive and a good experience for people that are answering them, it could be a good idea to assess and evaluate what meanings your group or organization is attaching to those self-identification questions to ensure that they're worded properly and that your respondents feel supported and confident in their responses. Now, how can knowing this help you move forward? Understand the meaning that people in your circles, in your community, in your spaces are attaching to identity and what it means to them by having conversations, having discussions surrounding identity, whether it's cultural background, whether it's gender, any different form or characteristic of identity. Talk about it so that the meaning that's assigned to it is less stressful for them to think about if you're wanting to have these discussions and have certain evaluations to help you in diversity and inclusion. The second mistake that's causing people to not self-identify is that it's obvious the self-identification is performative. Now, what exactly I mean by performative self-identification, if you're asking questions about self-identification and sharing your identity strictly for the purposes of asking the questions and for attracting people that are meeting certain criteria or answering questions certain ways, and you have no intention whatsoever in supporting them or in being able to create a good experience for them, it's potentially risky because people will feel like those self-identification questions are performative and just to help the group or organization to enhance their diversity percentages or to be able to reach a certain performance that isn't in the benefit of each individual. If you're an ally and you're trying to engage with more Indigenous people and you're trying to understand their identity by asking self-identification questions, ask yourself if you are doing things that are performative, if you are actually engaging with the people that you're working with, if you're listening to them, if you're creating a safe and positive experience with them, or if you are only wanting them to be in your community, in your group, in your organization, so that you can look better, right? If you can perform better, then that is performative self-identification. The third mistake that's causing people to not self-identify is if there's nothing in it for them to self-identify. Now, what I mean by nothing in it to self-ID, if there's no motivation, there's no reason, there's no benefit or positive outcome for someone to self-identify. If there's no custom, personalized, special groups in place that are going to help make their experience more positive or better, what is the reason for them to self-identify, right? So if you are an Indigenous person and you are being asked questions, or if you're of a diverse background and you are wanting to decide whether you should self-ID or not, it's a good exercise to Ask yourself what that means by self-identifying. Are you going to get different treatment? Or are you going to get special benefits? Anytime you're asking someone to identify or share pieces of information about themselves, this can sometimes be difficult for Indigenous people because they might feel defensive, they might feel threatened, they might feel afraid of judgment and discrimination, correct? And this applies to any race. Indigenous people aren't special or unique to that. So this all comes down to making sure that you have an inclusive environment or an inclusive conversation or a good next step after someone shares their identity, and then there'll be more motivation, more reason for people to share. If you're someone who's wanting to get more Indigenous people to self-identify and you don't have any positive results for someone doing so, maybe there isn't any opportunity to put anything in place yet, but you could word your questions in certain ways that will encourage what will be done with that self-identification. For example, at the end of many quizzes that I have online for spirit animal and smudge prayer, I always ask the question of self-identification of Indigenous or ally or would rather not say. And the reason that I do this is because I will then provide valuable content and valuable information to subscribers based on how they self-identify. The information and trainings and videos that I share with people will be customized based on how they self-identify, and it will allow me to personalize how I communicate with them, how I talk to them. And that is a great benefit for someone to self-identify. Now, what this means for you, if you are someone who is trying to collect information, learn about your respondents, learn about your community or people that you are asking to self-identify, give them a reason, share what you're going to do with that self-identification, and then actually put the things in place that you can follow through and fulfill those promises after you're saying, here is what we will do for you. We will share information that is more personalized or be able to learn, or even if you're trying to get more people to self-identify, to be able to create a more diverse and inclusive work environment, don't just ask your respondents to self-identify by answering those questions, but also share with them what you are going to be doing with that information. Are you going to be learning more so that you can adjust your services? Are you going to select people based on how they answer the questions? Are you going to send them personalized information? What is it that you're going to do? What are your intentions? What is your intent behind asking these questions? This will help respondents feel more trusted and feel more understood and understand that you're being transparent with them, so then they will be transparent with you when they're answering your questions. The fourth mistake that's causing people to not self-identify is not disclosing your diversity makeup. Now, what exactly is disclosure of your diversity makeup? If you're a group or an organization and you are asking people to self-identify and you're not sharing what the current makeup is of your organization or your group, and you're not being fully transparent with who is inside of your group and who's inside of your organization and how that's broken down, it might prevent someone from self-identifying. It might make them feel like you're not sharing the information with me about this group, so why should I share my information with you, right? That's why it's so important to disclose your diversity and inclusion breakdown within your group or organization before you ask questions about identity. Identity is very personal and complex. So when you're asking people to share such personal information, it goes both ways. It's a two-way street. So share about your organization, share about what you're wanting your organization or your group to have, and the direction that you want it to go, the vision that you want, and your intention and your focus and purpose behind asking these questions. And it will allow respondents to be more open, trusting, and appreciate that you're being transparent with them, because they will know that you are sharing this information and know the direction and what you're hoping to do with this information, right? The fifth mistake causing people to not self-identify is how the questions are worded. So what are incorrectly worded questions around self-identification? If they don't make sense to the respondent, then they're worded incorrectly. There's no one right way to word questions. When you're doing research, when you're creating forms, when you're creating quizzes, there's no perfect way to ask questions, right? So you have to dig deep and research and understand your audience, understand the people that you are asking these questions to, and know confidently what is the best way to word these questions that are going to make the most sense to them. And it's going to be the easiest experience to answer the questions, because if the questions don't make sense, they're going to abandon the form or the quiz or the application altogether. The sixth mistake that's causing people to not self-identify is not understanding why people aren't self-identifying in the first place. It's a mistake to not look into and research and value why people aren't answering the questions that you're asking them and why they're either abandoning them or not answering them effectively. Now, what does it mean to look into why people aren't self-identifying? If you are asking questions, whether it's through a form or a quiz or an application, and people aren't answering your questions properly, and what I mean by properly is you're getting responses and you know they're not accurate. So if you know that there are Indigenous people that are filling out your forms or your quizzes or whatever, and they're not self-identifying, or the responses that you're getting, you have a feeling that it's not true, don't just leave it. Don't just ignore it. It's really valuable to look into it. How are the questions worded? Why is it that people aren't self-identifying? Is it because of the outcome? Is it because of the fear or the risk of what that will mean, what it will cause, what it will create? It's important to prioritize it. So what can you do about it? And I think the first thing is to actually care. So care about why your responses aren't accurate and why they're skewed, why people aren't answering it properly as to what is true. What's the meaning and experience for them, why they would answer it not truthfully. Now, it's a mistake to not look into this because you're just allowing the responses to be invalid, and you're allowing your data and your information and the experience that people are having when they are either applying or answering questions in forms or quizzes or engaging with you, that you're just allowing it to be a poor experience, and you're settling for not just mediocrity, but worse than that, you're just settling for it to be downright wrong. Watch this video right here to learn about why people aren't self-identifying as Indigenous when they are. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an incredible day, and we'll see you next time.